Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about St. John of God Hospital Services and what we do. We'll talk about the government scheme, but also the Homes for Ukraine program by St. John of God and Caritas. We'll talk a little bit about who are the Ukrainians that we are supporting, and also the kinds of support that we provide to both hosts and guests that are involved in our scheme. So SJOG is a national charity helping people lead fulfilling lives, and we have lots of different projects. We have projects within the area of homelessness, modern day slavery. We have safe houses. We support people with autism, disabilities, older communities, and provide general community of support. So a little bit about the history. So St. John of God used to be a religious order, and the history of SJOG goes back 500 years. And since 2004, it became an independent charity that is now supporting people with very diverse needs across the UK. So Homes for Ukraine is a project run in a partnership by SJOG and CSAN together, and we're offering a matching, training and support service to hosts and guests under the government Homes for Ukraine scheme. SJOG is an official provider of the Homes for Ukraine scheme that is funded by DLUG and the Albert Gubay Foundation. And essentially, the purpose of this program, of this project, is to support those people who are willing to open their hearts and homes and match them with Ukrainians who are displaced by the war. And the most important thing is that it is supporting people on their journey towards independence. So a little bit about the government scheme itself. Under this scheme, hosts commit to providing 6 months worth of accommodation and support. And hosts can live anywhere in the UK and be of any nationality. As long as they have 6 months of permission to stay in the UK, you can be a sponsor. What do the Ukrainians get? Ukrainians have a very generous visa that allows them to stay in the UK for 3 years. And from day one, it gives them permission to work. Kids are allowed to go to school. Ukrainians have access to welfare benefits and some other types of support from the government. For example, the £200 interim payment that can be arranged for a local council, basically immediately upon arrival. And to help with the expenses associated with hosting, hosts receive £350 a month during the first 12 months of their guest stay. And after 12 months, the payment goes up to £500. And it doesn't matter if the host has been hosting for 12 months, as long as you're hosting someone who has been in the UK for over 12 months, you will receive £500. Also in Wales, the base payment is £500, not £350 a month. So these payments will be administered by the local councils that get funding, which I think at the beginning it used to be 10,500 per person, but if I remember correctly, then the amount got reduced, but I'm not 100% sure by how much. And yeah, this payment ends when all the guests leave the household. These payments are also tax-free and do not affect the sponsor's entitlement to their benefits or council tax. So this is the nuts and bolts of the government scheme. And now I'll talk a little bit about our program specifically. So this is a relatively new project and it's actually limited in time. So the project was meant to run for 1 year. And so we only started last September. And we've created a website for which people can register their interest. Both hosts and guests fill out an expression of interest form for our website and we put them into our database. Then we create matches based on the preferences, based on the preferences of both parties. So things like pet preferences, or for example, whether people want to live in a more urban or a more rural area. Sometimes hosts have a gender preference, for example, as well. It's not always possible to match people based on their preferences because, for example, what we've seen is that a lot of hosts come from quite rural areas and most Ukrainians are very motivated to find a job as soon as they get to the UK. And so oftentimes we're offering a sponsor to the Ukrainian family, and it's not what they stated in their application. They said, I want to be in the city or a town with available jobs. So it's not always possible, but we always try our best to match people based on their preferences stated in the forms. After that, we organize a initial Zoom meeting, which is an opportunity for hosts and guests to meet each other and to ask important questions. We are always present during those meetings, and we help with translation if needed. And obviously that's quite often needed. And also we have a set of questions to guide hosts and guests through this first meeting, because sometimes you're stressed, you're meeting the person for the first time. You can't think on the spot of what's going to be important and what are the important questions to ask each other. So we guide people through these meetings and prompt the important things to discuss, such as, for example, a stance on vaccination or an approach to raising children if they both have children of a young age, or food preferences, because we had a case where a host was vegetarian and she said she could only host a vegetarian or a vegan person. So things like that. And after that, we provide training and support. So some of the support we provide is the information booklets that we have developed, and those are there's two of those. One is for hosts and one is for guests, obviously in native respective languages. So they're both around a 50-page document which contains detailed instructions for Ukrainians of what they're going to have to do once they're in the UK, all the useful links, all the useful phone numbers. And for sponsors as well, that we give information about what their Ukrainian guests are going to have to go through as they settle in the UK, and also sections about cultural differences, how to approach conflict, what to do in conflict situations, options about moving on, etc. And the second part of support we provide is the webinars that we conduct once every 2 weeks for sponsors, and we have 2 of those webinars. The first is an introductory one that talks about the program generally, and the second one is more about cultural differences, communication tips, safeguarding concerns, etc., and generally about how to get along with your guest. And we found these training sessions help to manage expectations and help prepare hosts for their role. And we found that they have been helpful in reducing the risk of tensions or misunderstandings, and have generally equipped hosts for their future role. And after that, the Ukrainian family arrives in the UK. Our organization helps with the transfer. So we pay for the Ukrainian families or individuals travel from the Polish border or any other city where they are currently to the UK, to the airport nearest to the sponsor's home, from where usually and hopefully sponsors can pick them up. So this is just another visualization to help you understand how our project works. After filling out an expression of interest form, we do the matching, the introductory call. After that, training and awareness sessions for sponsors. There's one step missing on this diagram, and that's checks by the local council. So in the meantime, whilst the Ukrainian family is filling out their visa application and travel to the UK host family will receive a visit. They will receive a request to fill out a DBS check and also a home visit to make sure that their accommodation is appropriate for hosting. And after that, the Ukrainian family arrives in the UK, but our support doesn't stop there. So we provide intensive support during the first month of sponsorship, where we check in with our guests and make sure that everything is going well. And also, if at any point conflict arises, and we've had cases like that, we will, of course, get involved and help mediate conflict and help resolve the situation, and get involved with the council if needed, and generally provide emotional and if any other support is necessary than that as well. So this is the support that we provide again. So we match guests to the requirement of both parties, mediate video calls. How do we ensure support from local communities? So what we do is we create a separate document for each guest that arrives with WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, any numbers, organizations that are present in the area that they could turn to for support. We are always in touch with local councils, provide intensive support during the first month, and we also have a multilingual team that speak English, Polish, and Ukrainian. Another thing that we offer is that we, for security, for safeguarding concerns, we check references of sponsors. So that's in addition to the DBS check that will be conducted by the council. We also do rematching. So what a rematch is when a person has already been in the UK for some time, and either they fell out with a sponsor or their time has come to an end of their initial agreement and the person hasn't found a job and wasn't able to move on and live independently, we will match this or rematch these people with a different host family. As I already mentioned, flights from Polish airports, welcome books for Ukrainian guests and sponsors, and also what we provide, and it's one of the favorite parts of this project for me, is a welcome box for Ukrainian family upon arrival. And what this box contains is a mix of essential things such as some toiletries, some essentials they're going to need immediately upon arrival. We've also partnered up with Vodafone to provide them a prepaid SIM card, which is prepaid for 6 months with a very generous allowance. Some branded stuff from SJOG and an adapter, for example. We've our Ukrainian guests have been very grateful for these, and we've received overwhelmingly positive feedback. And it's just, apart from giving people useful things they might need immediately upon arrival, it's also just an opportunity for us to make them feel welcome and cared for, essentially. So who are we supporting? Predominantly and overwhelmingly, the guests that come to the UK through the Homes for Ukraine scheme are mothers with children. And the rationale of coming for such family units is quite clear, is to be, to the safety for the children. And for this very reason, my mom is currently a refugee in Germany because I have a 16-year-old brother. And, it's the concern for the kids that is motivating these women to move, even though it's very scary. In a lot of cases, can be overwhelming. A lot of people with support have never been abroad, don't speak any English, and yet they're, taking on this very big decision, and it can be scary and is just demonstrates resilience and strength. And so some single people as well, they tend to be more mobile and tend to be looking for a job straight away. These can be men or women. Some men are exempt from military service and are able to travel. Some men were already out of the country when the full-scale invasion happened. So we see both in our both types of applicants. Some young couples, some families, some elderly people, even though this isn't a very common category, and a lot of elderly people would have come through the family scheme instead, where they were hosted by their relatives. And sometimes we see cases of elderly people with children, like grandmothers with granddaughters, but this is also quite a rare category. So mostly it's mothers with children, young people, and families, I would say, are the 3 most common types of people that we support. I think this is it. So we have a YouTube channel, we have a Facebook page, and we have a website. So if you're interested in the work that we do, please get involved and check out our social media, our YouTube, our Facebook, or reach out to us directly. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them at the end of this wonderful event. Thank you.
Well, Zhenya, many thanks for sharing all of that. Tremendous amount of resources, and I love the